partners from DigiFarm going to be presenting to you. So if Steve, if you would go ahead and forward to the next slide. Uh, with us today is Doug and Steve Riddle, both whom are sales reps for DigiFarm North America. I will let them introduce themselves and then you can take over. Steve, go ahead, go to the next slide and introduce yourself.
Okay, thanks for the introduction and thanks for the time for everybody today to take out of your schedule here. My name is Steve Riddle, Eastern U.S. sales rep for DigiFarm, and I've been on board at DigiFarm here for about 2.5 years. I've got a lengthy career in ag, a lot of it with application equipment, and I feel a close tie to the AGCO organization. I spent about 14 years with the original AgChem equipment in Central Illinois at one of the action centers. So I touched a lot of the application equipment and spent about 10 years with Raven as well, traveling a lot of the Midwest and the Northeast U.S. And I've gotten to meet a lot of the AGCO dealers, in previous business ventures. And let Doug do a little introduction for himself as well here, my counterpart.
Hello all. Excuse me. My name is Doug Kelly. I am the Western sales rep for DigiFarm. I've been on board for just over a year. I use Steve as a guide quite often, probably too much, but he's been a great deal of help and teach me. I come from the irrigation side of the sales area, and I look forward to getting a chance to get out and meet all of you. So with that, I'm going to keep it short and sweet and let Steve take over. I am monitoring the chat room also.
All right, thanks, Doug. We'll go ahead and get started here. So the learning objectives today, we want to have you learn about the DigiFarm and our virtual-based network, the competitive edge that it brings and delivers for you, the opportunities about helping enable sales, and we're going to talk about mixed fleets, and of course we'll cover a lot of the focus on AGCO equipment. We're going to talk about mixed fleets a little bit today, and the conquest for sales, and then providing an RTK solution. And there again, talk about the enabling that we're going to provide for that, and of our DigiFarm network. So welcome again, and thanks for the time. Got to show off the banner there in the left-hand corner. That was a top portion of a special pull-up banner we had made. We were going to have out at the AGCO Fuse event there in Arizona. So got the synergy going there with the DigiFarm in the middle, and all the touching all the brands of the AGCO offering there. So had to show that off for everybody. DigiFarm, our goal is, and our mission is to provide the most accurate and a reliable RTK corrections, and maintaining a high level of customer satisfaction at value pricing. So they're our mission statement. DigiFarm, that's really our business. That's we don't sell any of the GPS units or displays, or compete in any other arenas with you. It's just our network that we wake up every day and eat, sleep, and breathe the robustness and the reliability and the value that brings. So one of the things, just starting off here, is why RTK, and what are the conversations that you can have when you guys are working. Obviously your goal is you're out selling iron, and along with the precision and technologies, but there's a whole vast array of reasons for RTK, and so that's something that we want to help you with. And when you're talking with customers, it's just not about being more accurate in the tractor and its guidance system. There's a reason for, and there's so many reasons, and making that connection with your customer is I've been kind of quizzing guys as I talk to people too. Why are they moving to RTK? As an example, right now with the wet spring that we had last year, strip till has become a more popular conversation, topic. I've got guys that they're mix matched on row equipment now, and obviously controlling traffic. And so as you're working with your iron that you're selling, whether it's a tractor, planter, combine, the conversations for RTK can be enabled, knowing that you've got a good resource for that connectivity to our network. And so that's what I want to encourage you with. When we talk about GPS, the conversations always come up, with the auto steers, and we're always talking about the accuracy levels. And over the years, I think I've cut myself short. It's always the guy that wants the most accurate he can be for the least cost. And I think sometimes we cut ourselves short, and we settle in on an accuracy level that's saving him initial cost in money of unlocks and what he needs to buy, and we're coaching him and how he can use something of a lesser quality and value or accuracy, and really we need to be up there in the conversations of RTK or higher accuracy. And like I said, I've caught myself in those conversations over the years before, just trying to help a guy save some money, when in reality I needed to help him realize the ROI of running the RTK better. When we talk about RTK, my initial thought years back was and a lot of people today, when they hear the word RTK, they just simply mean that it's sub-inch repeatable accuracy, and that is not necessarily true. No matter who the RTK provider is, we all play by two of the same rules. And there's a lot of math and calculations and factors that come into play, but it for simple purposes, it's the distance from you in the field, commonly referred to as the rover. The distance from you to the nearest base station is what determines that accuracy. And at approximately a 10-mile distance from base stations, or from a base station, you're going to lose about 1 inch of repeatable horizontal accuracy. So that's a rule that everybody plays by, and we need to remember. The other rule that everybody plays by, and it comes up in some conversations, is about the vertical error factor, and that simply is achieved by doubling your horizontal error. And we'll get into the stated accuracies for DigiFarm here in a minute. So just want to level set that, because that's an important piece that a lot of your grower customers are going to question, or a misconception that they might have about RTK and what it means, and the accuracies. So a lot of farms existing today, if they've been running RTK for a while, and probably a lot of them are going to be on a competitive system, especially if they're you're at a farm, and you're at a where there's a lot of John Deere equipment. A lot of networks are a radio-based RTK, and so certainly older technology that's an easy sell against. Radio RTK is a line of sight communication. So up on a grain leg or a tower, or as shown in the picture here, a portable base in the field is directly communicating via a radio-based signal to a radio device that's in the tractor itself. And so, like I said, it's got line of sight restrictions, and that's presents its whole set of issues. And the being tower mounted, there can be outages from storms. And if they travel very far from one base to the next, they actually have to also change what is called base IDs. And so the grower, if they do that, they've got to remember what field is planted under what RTK base station that was. And so that's an easy sell against, and something that you'll come about. The portable base does provide the shortest baseline uh, distance. So if we get to talking about accuracy, that's probably one of the most accurate measures. But if you're going to do anything repeatable, that portable base would have to be back in the exact same spot. So not very effective to use in row crop situations, doing repeatable accuracy. Moving on, we're going to run across, or you're going to run across out there, a lot of cellular-based RTK networks, and there's a lot that are just what I call a single base. They may say they have a network, or they've got multiple ones deployed, and they refer to it as a network or a system, but they don't talk to each other. It's just like a radio-based network. And the danger here is that you're talking with your customers, and they're on one of these or running with one of these. Most all these networks, they draw their coverage distance at about a 30-mile radius. And even knowing the rules of RTK, once you're outside of that 10-mile radius from the initial base station, really got to be cautious of the repeatable accuracy. And if there's ever an outage, or for whatever reason, of that single base, the next base is going to be, could be 40, 50 miles away, and further error factors come into play here. There's a lot of there's some private networks out, or of these base stations around. Typically, the business model is too that an individual or a company owns those, but they want to sell you the base station as the dealer, and then make the money on the back end, charging you a back end base maintenance fees. And also, a lot of these are limited to the brands of GPS that they'll support. And this would also represent what a lot of the state DOT networks, or what they call a network, a Coors or a DOT solution is a lot of these are single cellular base networks. So moving on to DigiFarm Virtual Base Network. If there's one thing, one takeaway that you folks on the call today collect and understand, it's this slide and this bit of information right here, because I often refer to it as this is the special sauce that DigiFarm does. This is what sets us apart. It's what sets our accuracy and our reliability. So looking at the picture, obviously we're going to have GPS satellites come into play. We still got to see satellite GPS information. If you'll note on the map there, in the background, there are circles. Those are drawn at 30-mile radiuses. It's actually referencing where some base stations are in central Illinois. And there's, where it says base station network, there's actually 5 base stations that are physically represented there. A lot of your grower customers are the thought is, or their misconception is, that a lot of guys think that we're using cell towers for our base stations, when in reality these are a physical base station. We'll see a picture of what one looks like here in just a little bit here. So how our network works is these base stations that are physically deployed. As an example, there's one there at Gibson City. That's actually at an AGCO dealership there. That's at Coons. I believe it's on the Wash Bay building. So that's a physical piece. Those base stations are communicating back to DigiFarm's data center position data and GPS information. So I like to refer to it as they're kind of a more of a known fixed reference point in how we operate and what we do, and they communicate back to the DigiFarm server, to our computer network. When customer logs in this case, well, he's in the Fendt tractor there, And when he logs in and through the modem or through the iPad and the beacon, when they start a session and basically hit start or put power to the modem, we see that that GPS unit, the tractor there, we see that log in. And before we start streaming correction data, we take position data and information from multiple nearby base stations. You'll often hear the words triangulate. We will triangulate a position. What we're doing is we're asking nearby base stations basically to provide us a lat-long position that is at a 3-mile distance from where that tractor is in the field. And what we do at that position there is create a virtual base temporarily while that guy is running in the field. So we're taking coordinates and positions, information and satellite information from multiple nearby base stations and creating that virtual base all in a matter of minutes. Then back through the traditional cell network in the form of a data packet signal. That's how we're sending the correction signal to the rover, to the tractor in the field, through the beacon or modem and getting it into the receiver. So just wanted to kind of explain, because when we create that virtual base at a 3-mile distance, and it varies a little bit on the model of the GPS unit, the make model, we've got an optimum distance there. At the most, it'll be 3 miles. So that virtual base, your system in the tractor will see that. All the RTK, all the displays out there when they're unlocked RTK, there's a page you can go to in your programming. It'll show the nearest baseline distance. It'll show that and see that as the nearest base station. So there's nothing physically there, but it's the fact that we've got all these data points to support putting a base there virtually to run off of. Now at 3 miles or closer, our accuracy, if we do the math, it should be 1/2 inch or better on the horizontal repeatable accuracy. So that virtual base is important in the discussions, because it's when we state our accuracies, it's all based on that virtual base's location being at a 3-mile distance. So you'll hear us talk about our horizontal accuracy more true to being 1/2 inch repeatable horizontally and 1 inch or better vertically. And that's how we're achieving that. The other thing that this helps with by creating that virtual base, if there was a power outage or our base stations are actually plugged into an internet source. That's how they communicate back to DigiFarm. If there's ever a power outage or an internet issue at where a base station is at, we can also pull in data from other nearby base stations and still create that virtual base. So in the event that there's ever a problem with a base station temporarily, your customer in the field won't ever notice any change in accuracy because the way we do that. So it's also creates a safety net. So accuracy and reliability, it's all about this virtual base here and how we create it, what it does for us. It's huge. That's the like I said, the special sauce for what DigiFarm does and how we create that. A rule of thumb, if you're looking at our coverage map, if you can draw a triangle with 3 base stations that are touching or overlapping in some form or fashion and place your customer inside of that triangle, we can create that virtual base. And we also need a minimum of about 5 base stations in a cluster to do that best. There are some places that you'll see where we're growing and expanding the network that we may push that limit there a little bit, but so anywhere we've got a minimum of 5 base stations in a cluster and draw your guy inside of a triangle of any 3 of those base stations, we can create that virtual base. That's So the most important takeaway for today that I hope everybody retains. DigiFarm's been a fast-growing company. It's a fun story. We are founding, one of our owners, a founding owner, electrical engineering degree background. He and his dad farm, still do out in Iowa, and he was working as an electrical engineer with actually Rawson Drive Motors, but they were on the Iowa Coors network and got to a point where they were struggling with some of the reliability of and robustness of the network, and so out of frustration, out of need and necessity of a farmer, he actually created in his own first cellular base station. Now, throughout the first couple years, DigiFarm was just like a single base cellular network, and then in spring of 2014 is when the being able to create the virtual base came along, and ever since then, that's really what has driven the growth with DigiFarm and set us apart. Down in the lower left corner, I wanted to show this to everybody. This is a view from a service portal map, and if you can see that, the green dot there represents a grower that has logged in with a system. And down in the lower right-hand corner, you're going to see a red T with a little red line above it. That's actually identifying where that virtual base was created when that guy logged in. Now the guy's just logged in. I took a screenshot of this here recently. This is actually over in around Hayti, Missouri area from a screenshot. There's a farm there. The guy logged in, and I just captured that screenshot there. So not only does your system recognize that virtual base, but we physically recognize it on some service maps. I just wanted to reiterate the fact of that virtual base being created there again. So our current coverage map, I do want to note this map will be updated in a few days, probably sometime next week. We've actually got right now, there's 8 base stations going up in Alberta, actually because of an AGCO dealer up there. I believe it's Hat. They've got in Western Alberta through one of your working with one of your fuse reps there. They've got 8 base stations that are coming online, and as soon as those are ready to start being utilized here in the coming week or so here, they'll appear on our map. If you go to our digifarm.com and the RTK services tab, that's pretty much a live, ever-changing coverage map. I know Kansas we've added. There's additional coverage there now. Again, that was through working with an AGCO dealer and expansion that they were looking at. We facilitated. So if you're looking at that map, that's of course you want to view that if you're in question of a coverage area for one of your grower customers. And also if you're in an area that's not covered and you've got opportunities, let's channel those back through your fuse rep, and to start the conversations, what we need is a detailed service area that would facilitate your opportunity. So if you've got a farm address and an example of a mile, certain mileage radius, give us some idea of a coverage area that's needed. Also your short-term immediate needs and what maybe some long-term potential. DigiFarm, we've been growing and expanding. We've got a conversations and then that we'll have, and the timeline, because our base stations and the fact that they're a network solution and they all talk to each other. When we put up a base station, it's about a 4 to 5 week process to let that survey in, unlike others that are 24 hours or less, because the process we take is more tedious. So there is a timeline there that we've got to work with that's a little bit lengthier, but the benefits on the flip side are huge with it. So also, when we talk about potential based host sites, that's another conversation that we'll have. DigiFarm will help take a lead in that and getting the base stations installed and deployed. The business model with DigiFarm is typically then that we'll own the base stations or get them deployed and work with you, the dealer, or work within the area to find sites. There is an optimum min and max distances we like to get for the base stations. Our base stations are simply like I mentioned, pretty much an oversized GPS antenna. There's a leveling ring, a choke ring there in the installation. That's plugged into basically a receiver-looking device in the building and plugged into the internet. So not an overly complicated install, but one that we have to take serious in its sturdiness, robustness, and meet some qualifications with that. DigiFarm, we own our own near Monticello, Iowa, our own computer server network. It's in an underground bunker room, all kinds of redundancy in the servers, as well as power supplies and sources for internet and everything that we need for that. So that's something that we maintain ourselves and manage on the back end as well. I'll go into the details on the hardware a little bit further here with some referencing some DigiFarm or some AGCO Fuse resources. We've got capability to talk to all the major brands of the receivers. The key part there is that each receiver brand that we talk to, we've identified its what we call the mount point. So it's not just making them live with a generic GPS message. They've all got their own little communication pieces that we've identified. So we talk their specific, not only language, but their accent, their lingo, whatever, it's more detailed than just a generic language. This is I'm going to go into the AGCO Fuse resources. This product marketing bulletin, Fuse 18-10 PMB, is a wealth of information. Every time I look at it, I think I grab something new and informative out of it. It's got a good introduction. It talks about verifying coverage area. It goes through some of the beacon and modem options. The ordering instructions for the RTK subscription. It walks through downloading the DigiFarm app. It does a great job too of going through some of the initial setup questions you might have, and then by make and model of the displays and GPS units that are factory installed with AGCO. It goes through a lot of good screenshots with details on those, and then a good FAQ section. I did mention up here also midway there, ordering the RV50. There is a newer marketing bulletin, Fuse 19-12. Our RV50 modem can be ordered with a data plan, but not activated. So it allows you to stock that on the shelf better. But I'll go into a little more detail here on a few of these. So within that Fuse bulletin, this is a page off to the right there that's reviewing the beacon option, and it does a great job of explaining where, why, and the scenarios that you would use this within. A lot of I kind of refer to this as this is the owner operator option. He's more apt to have an iPad in the cab. Maybe he's doing some mapping and other functions. Maybe he's with precision planting or with the climate field view, or he's already got that in the cab, so that's a perfect device that's already got a data plan, and we can run in the background while they're doing other stuff with the iPad. The beacon device itself is very simple. Typically with AGCO factory installs, there's just one adapter cable, and we can talk about where it goes and gets mounted. But the Beacon is a universal piece too. So if guys it's a one-time hardware buy, they're buying that. But if they end up, trading tractors and you're moving equipment with them, and they get into different displays and different advancements with the GPS options, that Beacon piece is universal. At most, we'll just need maybe a different adapter cable to use with it. It's reliable, it's rugged, it'll pair a very long distance away. Um, with Mark Frucci down in North Carolina last summer, I think it was, and we were struggling to get one connected, a Beacon paired to go do a demo, and the, my phone was over in my vehicle 50 feet away. Well, it was paired to it that far away. I had to go forget the device and shut it off. It'll pair a long distance, and it's reliable, and it's a rugged Bluetooth piece. The app is very simple to use. Once it's set up, pretty much you're just going to open up the app and literally just hit a start button. Um, there's always concern with older operators and their capabilities to run computers and do button presses, and this is an easy app to run. It's also a real simple way if you, the dealer, are going to go out and do a demo, because it's a quick, easy install. You're not running cables everywhere, and you can get out an iPad and run the app very simply. So best value for the dollar here too. We're utilizing the data from the iPad, and no different than the modem devices. We're only going to eat up. It'll be less than 1 gig of data when you're out running the most, and if assuming that that's the spring season and you're running about 24/7 for what we need to do for the RTK, very minimal. And that's where we save a lot of money too for the grower. Is in the data plan almost becomes more out of sight, out of mind, probably more in an all-included data plan for him. The other option, our RV50 modem, again referencing the newer bulletin out about being able to order and stock that on the shelf with a delayed data plan to activate at time of sale. Definitely the best turnkey solution. If you've got a lot of, if the farm's got a lot of different operators jumping in and out of equipment, and they want something just simple to turn it on and go, this is it. The RV50 is the latest of the cellular features, the LTEs and all the fallbacks. It's also going to be the best in our cell connectivity. So I'd mentioned earlier about we're delivering that correction signal, and it's in the form of a data packet. So that's what is used like for text messaging, which is different than voice, and that's good because that's a stronger signal. But there's a dedicated cell antenna that comes with the RV50. So rather than utilizing the internal antenna on an iPad, so it does give us a better connectivity if that's of concern. And again, no different than the Beacon. It's compatible with all the brands of the GPS units. Competitively priced. We've got multiple carrier options. And one thing that is unique about the RV50 through AGCO, it is an open source modem. Any DigiFarm non-AGCO offering for the RV50, it is locked entirely down to just the DigiFarm network. So this does give you a little flexibility for an open source for RTK. Maybe we've got an area that we haven't got covered yet, but you've got some other options while we work towards that, expanding into that area. The RV50, like I said, it's a great platform for the turnkey solution with no button presses required. The other AGCO Fuse resource, all our kits and accessories and documentation, all these kits are going to be in your Fuse technical catalog through your AGCO dealer portal. I will mention believe there's a process in place right now. We're working with AGCO on changing part numbers for the kits, and they're going to mirror more of what the DigiFarm part number is that you'll find on our digifarm.com site with our online store. I know some guys have gone there to look at descriptions and what's in a bill of material and just kind of trying to pick out, and then I'm assuming you guys have got a vendor crossover thing, but we're going to make that process a little easier on there too. So, but that's a great resource for you for looking at your kits and accessory cables and such. The other thing about what we'd mentioned about DigiFarm is the enabling of helping you move iron and make sales and move towards that. Uh, I know you'd love to go into a farm and they've got competitive equipment. It'd be great to get it all traded out, but it's a process. It may be a one tractor first, and then we'll move towards moving others. While you're at that farm, if you're providing RTK for your AGCO equipment and they're running RTK on other brands, you've got all the opportunity in the world to get your foot in the cab of that other brand of equipment with DigiFarm providing the RTK. You can get them rolled over into running RTK on those other brands of equipment in the meantime, and we hope that enables you. Now you've got an obligation and opportunities to go back and check in on them and check in on that equipment and get face to face and try to achieve your goals of moving iron and using DigiFarm as an enabler to help do that. Our competitive equipment that we can help you support, we've got great installation guides and setup instructions, no different than the AGCO. And there again, we talk all the different specific languages, John Deere, all the different different competitive languages. I do know there's better capabilities today. I had a recent conversation with Chuck Hickman about this, and I believe it's Alliance Patrick there. I know I talked to him about it. There's better capabilities today about converting AB lines from different competitive equipment, and that's all helping also. And so we also offer some farm-wide programs with uh, the with the programs that we've got too. So if you can get everybody on DigiFarm RTK at the farm, we hope that's helping enable you. The Fuse booklet that I'd referenced earlier too, it's just like I said, it's a great guide here. Here's a page that's in there. It's a great initial. There's a page there that's talking about by make, model, and year. It's giving the actual description right out of the gate of where are we going to go plug in this beacon and adapter cable or the RV50, and then also that it's got detailed step-by-step instructions with the screenshots of that's shown down below there. It's starting to get into some of the setup of those installation guides. So that's a great resource you guys have put together for DigiFarm. Other DigiFarm resources here on digifarm.com is again our coverage area. There's some redundancy here. We've got under our support tab, we've got quick reference cards and different documentation again on so not only the AGCO but the competitive brands of installation guides and setup instructions and of the processes of getting DigiFarm in there. I did fail to mention, I want to bring it up here. I got listed down there also supported modems. I failed to mention earlier when we were talking about the RV50 modems, other brands of modems that and connectivity that you have through AGCO. your AGCO supplied factory installed modem. Another one, if you're into the application equipment, more apt to be on a Rogator, might be a Raven RS1 that's got the internal slingshot antenna, or excuse me, modem, or the external slingshot modem. All those devices we can work with to connect to our RTK network. So if you've got, as an example, like a Raven RS1, I do know in the, whether it's the activation or edit features, you can go into the slingshot portal, and that can be and you can put in the credentials and the mount point and the caster numbers to connect that. You know, that modem device may, if it's doing other remote support features and file transfers through APIs, and that's got value, we don't need to be redundant with a modem device, and that happens quite often. I did want to mention that as well. So today, like I said, I hope that we've explained the DigiFarm and our virtual-based network and the competitive edge that we give to you with that. The mixed fleet opportunities in your conquest of making sales and helping sell iron, and being confident in the conversations about the technology on your equipment, and that how we can help move that and enable that. And then providing the RTK solutions, you know, whatever iron that is, what's the planner and the row shutoffs and the sprayer with the Hawkeye and the individual shutoffs and the boundaries and the tractor guidance, and you know, just the whole gamut of we're going to provide the RTK solution, and we hope that enables you to just move on and make that next step in you know, making a, you know, moving towards making the sales in there. So we thank you for your time and everything that we can provide and offer. And I think we're ready for some questions at this moment.
Steve, Martin has asked, what can you tell us about future cell expansion, like moving to 5G in certain areas and using 4G LTE and GSM for people crossing different areas?
Yeah, the modem devices are kind of more in our minds. I think you know, when you buy a modem device, it's kind of wrote in stone with its hardware, and although we can, you know, the technology's there to update maybe some firmware and software versions, modem devices tend to be a little more wrote in stone. Of you open that box up and you activate it, and it'll do what it's going to do. So our RV50 is an example. It'll do the LTE and the 4G, and then the, you know, the 1X roam and the fallbacks. But as those advance, that hardware is going to have to advance with that also. Where the iPad, in my opinion, and the iPad is probably hardware driven a little more to be able to accept newer networks. In the perfect world, cell connectivity is going to get better every day. in the perfect world, and it does in many places. As if 5G, I know there's a push in rural communities for AT&T actually has a contract to blanket a lot of North America in rural communities. Verizon is probably one of the strongest in rural communities today, but 5G is going to require a whole new equipment hardware setup for towers and across America. And if I'm not mistaken, it's either going to have to even be a closer proximity where those towers are. So as those areas grow, we'll obviously try to take advantage of that. The fact that we're working with a data packet signal is huge for us today, because that is a stronger signal just in general. You know, so that's one advantage with the technology today, using that data packet signal.
All right. What do you recommend for people that are in weaker cell coverage areas? Can we use a higher gain antennas or boosters?
The double shot glass antenna that comes with the RV50 is obviously the most robust way versus the iPad and the Beacon. So I would go towards that. Our RV50 has one kit, I believe, has one of the double shot glass antennas. I have had a few guys in some weak areas or questionable areas replace our diversity stick antenna that we provide with another one of the double shot glass antennas, and seen a little bit of gain uh, in there also. Um, I think I've seen a question pop up too there about boosters. DigiFarm does not sell any boosters. We've played with some and tested some. There's well, they had a name change, they got bought out, but if you Google Wilson, um, there are some cell boosters out there that I know guys have used and tried to help, pick up the DB, what's called the DB gain in there. Another important thing is as you're working with your different brands of receivers, I would encourage all of you to do the homework, whether it's factory option of a Trimble or a Novatel or whatever brand that is. Learn and understand what the fallbacks are. If DigiFarm does not send a correction signal to that receiver and more than 1 minute goes by, most brands of receivers will go into some sort of a fallback mode, and they call them different things. There's glide and extend and exfil. There's different terminologies, but rather than going like straight back to WAS, it's doing a lot of assuming of some old information, and most of them do a pretty good job of that. And there's usually a time factor of maybe 15 minutes or so. So that'll give us a chance to rebound and let that guy get to the other end of the field maybe, or crossed where we hit him again with another cell signal. And so that's something I would encourage you dealers to learn about or understand how that works.
One of the things that we've noticed here in Iowa, U.S. Cellular is putting up 125 new towers this year because of the 5G. The distance between 5G is more improved, or not more improved. I'm sorry, it's shorter. The reception or the dynamics of it is greater, but the distance it can travel is shorter. So they're putting up 125 new towers. And also, one thing to keep in mind with Verizon, I know they're doing 105. That's just in Iowa. But they are also, if a 3G tower goes down, they are not replacing those. They're not fixing them or putting any money into them. I don't know that a lot of towers have gone down. I've not heard of any, but it's just something in the back of your mind. So as far as cellular goes, that's what we know on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Doug just brought up. There's a lot of modem devices out there that are still just 3G only. Verizon had announced several years ago they were going to no longer communicate with 3G devices at the beginning of this year of 2020, and then at the last minute they extended that one more year. So your guys, in theory, are still good running a 3G only modem device out there with Verizon. However, what Doug had stated, we do know that if there's hardware issues at their cell towers, uh, any equipment that they're replacing may not support 3G. So there may be pocket areas that we see get worse. One of the important things about our RV50 modem and our data plans that we provide, that's an important piece from the support side of things, because that's one of the first things we tackle when we get involved with a service question is, are we dealing with connectivity to our network, or is it a cell related issue? And with us having the data plans, we do provide a static IP address, and so that we can better support those data plans and help troubleshoot those, as opposed to farming that out and then jumping between two different companies to support that call, that question.
Any other questions?
Of the latest LTE, capabilities, and then do all the fallbacks, and then whatever brand of GPS that's talking to, if it's a Novatel receiver or a Trimble or an aftermarket receiver, we've certainly have got a kit for that. And I would also encourage, that's a good point too, because maybe when this customer maybe he is or isn't using one that DigiFarm had. Maybe when guys first started, they were a little reluctant about using an iPad and a beacon. But I'm also encouraging guys as they contact you about replacing a 3G modem, don't forget to also tell them about the beacon and using the iPad, because maybe today that makes better sense. And previous there was a little pushback or hesitation about it. So don't forget to also offer up the options, or the beacon and the iPad option as
That's
well.
a great point, Steve. Just to add to that a little bit from the iPad perspective, especially for the dealers that are in the Midwest and maybe do some precision planting items and tying that to field view with an iPad, we've had quite a few successes of utilizing field view with a cell-based iPad while running the DigiFarm Ntrip application in the background, connecting to that beacon in the machine. So a lot of customers today using field view or something very similar with the cell-based iPad. It's a very good addition to that because they're already paying for a data plan. They don't need to pay for another one. They can just utilize the one that they currently have and still get their RTK level correction through the VBN. So great opportunity. Thanks again, Steve and Doug, for taking your time and for everybody dialing in.